Hey everybody, Meinke from live.com. Joined by Nate Atkins. We're at Ford Field. Lions have just lost 31-24 to the Green Bay Packers. Really a disappointing night, Nate, with all the fanfare and the build-up with the possible NFC North title on the line. Lions started off quick, got a touchdown from Zach Zenner, a touchdown pass to Golden Tate. But really, it was all Packers after that, and especially Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice to see the energy in this building. They've been waiting for a home game like this. It felt like a playoff game, certainly, and I think the fans showed up and they kind of got the Packers rattled a little bit with some of the false starts and stuff. But again, it was another game where the Lions were totally in it for a half. They looked like they were absolutely toe-to-toe with the Packers. Second half comes out and it's just a different deal, and I just think some of it's what Aaron Rodgers does. As he goes into halftime, he kind of sees what's not totally working and what he can tweak with, and down the stretch he just became kind of unstoppable in this one. I think he just made some plays, extending the play, looking downfield, threading some tight windows. They just didn't have an answer for it. Not many teams have in this incredible run that he's had ever since he said they were going to run the table. And at the end of the day, that's just the difference here. They had Aaron Rodgers and the Lions didn't, and I think that's what got them.
The Lions got some pressure on Rodgers throughout this game, particularly in the first half. We saw from Kerry Hyder, we saw from Devin Taylor, we saw from Ezekiel Ansah had him in his mitts. I have no idea how he didn't get a sack on that play, and every time it seemed like he was able to squirt out. And we've seen that over the years with Aaron Rodgers. But that was really the difference, I thought, in the second half. And I think to the 10-yard touchdown pass to Geronimo, which is a name I'll never get tired of saying. He rolled out to his left. He reset his feet, and then he started rolling again and set his feet again, and then passed. It must have been a 6-second play or so, and that's something Don Carey told me after the game. We're talking about what makes Aaron Rodgers special is that his ability just to extend plays. And the average play is going to go 3 or 4 seconds in the NFL. With Aaron Rodgers, it can just go on and on and on. And he has this great knack for understanding when to attack with his legs, when to do it with his arm, and really just he had his way with the Lions in this game. 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. I mean, just really, the Lions had no answer for him in the second half.
Yeah, and one underrated aspect of this, I was talking to Darius Slay, and he talked about just how tiring this is on a defensive back. And so that sort of has a cumulative effect. We're here in week 17. It's the last game of the year. They played him pretty well. And then down the stretch, fourth quarter, especially when he does that hurry up and he gets them caught in that 3rd and 10 that got a 5-yard penalty, it just takes a toll on guys. And like you said, when they have to guard for 9 seconds in a crucial play like that, and I think they did it really well too. I mean, they had the coverage there, and this is a guy that might very well be the MVP of the league right now. And the Lions defense, it just wasn't good enough to handle that. I don't know that a lot are. That's why they needed probably a little bit more on their offense too down the stretch of this game. It just wasn't all there once the injuries kicked in, and that's why they finished in second place.
Yeah, I didn't think the secondary played all that bad, especially considering how many guys they lost in this game. Because Quandre Diggs is out for the year and Darius Barnes on the practice squad, they started Asa Jackson at the nickel. He got injured, so Don Carey went in. He got injured, so Crescent Butler went in. He got burned for a 31-yard pass, and they got injured and left the game. Don went back in. Don Carey finished the game despite his injury. I mean, they had some problems. I thought they still actually played pretty well. It wasn't the first or the second read that Rodgers was getting. It was the 3rd and the 4th. And that was the issue. And part of me wants to say, hey, that's just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. No shame in that. It's going to happen to the best of you. The problem, though, is they face Russell Wilson now in like 5 or 6 days. And he gets it done in a very similar way. He's a mobile guy. He can escape pressure. He's slippery. He can find some guys, and he has an even better running game than what Aaron Rodgers does in support of him. And so I think that's going to pose some real problems for the Lions looking forward to the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we've talked about, even though they had the playoffs wrapped up before this started, it would have been huge to play at home rather than go at Seattle, which is one of the toughest home crowds in the entire league. And like you said, Russell Wilson's going to pose that same threat. We talked to defenders post-game, and they talked about we just got to find a way to look at these plays where it seems like we did everything technically right to stop Aaron Rodgers and still got beat. And they still got to find a way to answer that, because that's what next week's going to be. I think the one thing that's going to be really in their favor is that the Seahawks offensive line is not very good, and this Packers offensive line is really good. And so there should be more consistent pressures they can get on. Maybe they can do it earlier in the snap and try and bottle them up with a couple different guys. But you're right, the same challenge is going to be there. It's going to really test a secondary that's starting to have some nicks on it, not just Darius Slay, but in the nickelback spot and all across the board. So they're going to have a lot of challenge, and they're going to need to, as we've talked about for a couple weeks here, flush this loss, move on to the next one, and kind of look at it as we just got to get one win against a playoff caliber team to kind of keep our season rolling.
Getting some more offense would obviously help. Matthew Stafford I thought was okay in this one, but in the end just not enough to keep up with Rodgers. Zach Zenner, I think the emergence of him the past 2 weeks has been the biggest development in the offense and has been kind of a saving grace for them. I mean, when the offense has been at its best the past couple of weeks has been in the first halves of these games when Zenner has more than 120 yards rushing between the two. Where it's really fallen apart is in the second half of these games where he got 2 touches against Dallas, just a couple more this week against Green Bay. They need more consistency, I think, from the rushing game, and they need more from Stafford. He's been up and down with the finger, and he refuses to make that an excuse, and I respect him for that.
Yeah.
But I can see the passes that he has, and it's not as consistent. There's a couple balls today where he totally airmailed the receiver.
Yeah.
And that's not Matthew Stafford. He misses sometimes. He's not the most accurate guy in the world.
That
but to
fade
throw
to
it,
Golden Tate was emblematic of
he
that.
had him, and how many times has he completed passes like that to Golden Tate this year? At least 3 or 4 times where he's got behind the defense and just lofted it up. And he's even said in a situation like that, the last thing you want to do is overthrow him.
Yeah.
But what did he do tonight? He overthrew Golden Tate, and that's just an uncharacteristic play. I think it is a symptom of the figure.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And this Lions team has talked all the time. They get it from Jim Caldwell. They just do not like to do anything that sounds like excuse making, why they might not lose. It's why you ask them about having fewer days of rest. They don't want to get into that. But that's what it is. He's not been the same since the finger injury. Maybe it would be different if this offense was in a little better place, if his receivers were getting off man coverage a little easier. And like you said, if the running game is more consistent, even though it's improved. But right now, this was a great example of it. You had 2 teams that were putting so much on their star quarterbacks. One of them is at the absolute top of his game in Aaron Rodgers. The other one, Matthew Stafford, is fighting admirably through this finger injury, but he's not at his best. And I think when he's not at his best, it just makes it a little harder for the Lions to win, obviously.
Spinning it forward, there are a few injury concerns to watch this week. Jim Caldwell obviously was not talking about him after the game, but no Riley Reef in this game, no Travis Swanson. Marvin Jones left the game in the 4th quarter with he was being evaluated for a head injury. Never came back. It was late in the game that when he suffered that injury. So some things to watch as we go forward onto a second straight short week for the Lions. They're beat up. They've lost 3 games. Got some injury issues. They got to sort it out, or their season will be over. For Nate Atkins, I'm Meinke. We're MLive.